So, just like my other peers here, I am going to do a book review. But before that, let's get to know me first. My name is Alea and I am from Universitas Indonesia. I am majoring in naval architecture and marine engineering, class of 2022. Right now, I am an awardee of PAMK batch 6. Nah, without further ado, here is my book. It is a brief history of time by Stephen Hawking. It was released originally in 1988, but right now I am reading the 70th version. The 17th edition, and my book is in bahasa Indonesia. And for the other details, I will just put it over in the video, because reading is important. Okay, anyway, before we start, I would like to explain why exactly I chose this book. Truth to be honest, I rarely read non-fiction books in my life. Like, the closest thing to it is probably just, my lessons books. So, if someone asks me, do I read? The answer is yes. Yes, I do, but almost all of them is fiction. Except for storybooks, I guess. But that's kind of rare too for me. But the challenge here is to read non-fiction books, so I kept thinking about it over and over. What kind of topic I would understand, but just enough so that it keeps me intrigued. Something that gives me the basics, but still leaves me eager to learn more. Babam! I'm an engineering student. My study is packed full of physics and math, so I thought, why not read a book that's full of that stuff? And also, I've always wondered, how did the universe begin? So I looked it up on the net and then I came to my choice, this gem. Rumors said that this book is filled with theories and physics and math. Like, okay, so what? And yes, it's apparently very hard. You ever feel like after you start something, instead of learning things, you feel like you've become dumber? Yeah, it gets worse from there. You will feel like you're both smarter and dumber than before you read this book. It's sort of easy to understand, but then suddenly it gets really complicated without much warning. Like, it moves from simple ideas to very hard ones. Like Hawking's theory of imaginary time, which is especially tough to understand the way he explains it briefly in the book. I actually read this book 2 times, and this is the bahasa version of it, so I actually gained a lot of new dictionary. For example, usually people would use particle in bahasa as particle, but here we use Zahra. So, also, I've been thinking personally, I don't think this book is widely acceptable. Like, somehow, to me, it's not clear who is in the target audience for this book. Sometimes it explains basic concepts of modern physics in simple language, and at other times it assumes a familiarity with the same subject. Or maybe that's just my skill issues. Like, I didn't quite understand it. Like, I always felt I had to read each chapter twice. Physics is just hard for me. Now to the more serious segment. This book isn't just a history of space and time, it's a deep dive into our limited understanding of the universe. This book main idea is basically the universe follows laws that we can understand, and by studying them, we can figure out where we came from, what we're made of, and maybe, just maybe, where we are going. With some supporting ideas, like was there a beginning to time? What happened before the Big Bang? What are black holes really doing out there? Can we travel through time? Does the universe need a creator? The universe is expanding and has been since the Big Bang. Hawking walks us through how this was discovered and why it is a huge deal. Black holes aren't just cosmic vacuum cleaners. They radiate energy and might evaporate. Time might not be what we think it is, right? What if time isn't linear? What if there's imaginary time running at right angles to real time? There is amazing theory of everything. Scientists are still trying to connect general relativity, or the big stuff, and quantum mechanics, the tiny stuff. But you know, what surprised me most about this book? As Hawking talked about Copernicus, Newton, Einstein, all these genial level humans and their universe defining theories, he never once mentioned flat Earth as a legit idea, not even a petty mention. He just casually brushed past it like, oh yeah, some 5th century guy named Pythagoras noticed the moon was round, so Earth probably was too. Then Aristotle came along and I was like, oh yeah, I back that. And apparently that was enough for everyone to just accept it and move on. But seriously, are we absolutely sure the Earth isn't flat? Anyway, Hawking also dives into stuff like the expanding universe and how that ties into its possible beginnings. The logic seems simple enough. If everything is moving away from everything else, then hit rewind and you will eventually get back to the beginning. A super tiny, super dense starting point. Cool, makes sense, and then bam, quantum mechanics again. And that's when he lost me. Actually, scratch that. He lost me like way earlier. Probably around the part where he casually suggests that maybe Earth isn't the center of the universe. Like, okay, but you know what? I'm trying, and honestly, that must count for something, right? Okay, so in the end, I finally understood sort of quantum mechanics. Okay, maybe not fully, but here is what clicked for me. In quantum physics, particles don't have definite positions or speed until you measure them. Before that, they exist in a cloud of possibilities, and this doesn't just apply to atoms. And Hawking says this could apply to the entire universe. Imagine the whole universe started out as a probability cloud. Then something caused it to collapse into the reality we live in. Reality isn't fixed until it's observed, which is both terrifying and strangely empowering to me. Also, it kinda makes me wonder if the universe noticed when I lost my socks. Okay, so there are some messages that kinda stuck with me. First off, curiosity is power. This book made me realize that even if you don't fully understand something now, asking the question is already half the journey. Second, humility. There's just so much we don't know. The universe is 13 billion years old, 93 billion light years wide, and here we are, tiny emotion power skeleton trying to figure out if time has a shape. And third, inclusivity in knowledge. Hawking made an effort to write this book for everyone, not just science majors or physicists. He believed that everyone deserves access to the biggest questions of the universe. What did I do after reading it? Well, for starters, I reread it twice because I need to understand it well to write a review about it. Afterwards, I brought it up in conversations with friends, and I asked like what if questions, because that's what books like this are meant to do. They spark more questions than answers. Okay, so my overall impression is, well, it feels like drifting through a fog-covered ocean. You don't know where you are, the wave of information tosses you around and everything is blurry. But every now and then, a lighthouse of insight cuts through the fog, and for a brief moment it clicks. You get it. Half the time, you're muttering, what the hell is Hawking talking about? The other half, you're just Oh, you're just so stunned that someone actually mapped out this insane sea of space, time, and black holes in the first place. And that's what makes this book unforgettable. At least to me, it's not about getting everything. You don't need all the answers, you just need the curiosity to keep asking. You will be walking away with more wonder than when you start. Personally, I would like to recommend this book because it treats you like a thinker, because it invites you into the conversation instead of locking you out, because it shows that science isn't just for scientists, it is for anyone who looks up at the night sky and thinks to themselves and wonders what is out there. Also, Hawking's humor occasionally sneaks in, so like when he talks about time travel theories not showing up as proof we can time travel. That got a laugh from me. And last but not least, my fifth quote from this would be, okay, there are actually two. The first one is, you cannot predict the future. And two, the universe doesn't allow perfection. Okay. And that's all from me today. Thank you for listening to me until now and keep reading. Cheers!